Hey everyone, welcome back to theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Again, that website address is theclinicaltrialsguru.com. And I bring on guest gurus. I'm not a guru. I bring on what I think are experts in their respective field throughout clinical trials. So there's so many different facets of clinical trials. Today, I have, and I'm very happy to have on Melissa Easy from drugdev.org. She's been making big news lately, a lot of big headlines. We're going to talk about the Transcelerate thing and how her organization's evolved, drugdev.org. And Melissa was introduced to me by someone on Twitter. And so that, again, shows you the power of social media. I mean, I had no idea about drugdev.org, but I went ahead and signed up my 3 clinics, South Coast Clinical Trials and Breakthrough Clinical Trials, to the service because it's free. But we're going to talk about that, and I will actually let Melissa introduce herself and talk about it a little. And Melissa, maybe we can talk about Transcelerate first, and then we'll work our way backwards to how your company was founded and how it's involved in the picture.
Okay, great. Well, Transcelerate is actually a much bigger thing than what we're actually involved in at the moment. So what's actually recently been announced in the news is actually the global data bank, and so that's what we're involved with. So just to make that distinction right up. And what we're actually doing is we've been working with Janssen, Eli Lilly and Merck, who are very keen in trying to really work with sites and make their job easier, because they realise that there is a lot of things that are being repeated. So for example, GCP training, they know that they're all doing it. They know that sites are having to do it every time they work with a new sponsor. And so they look at that in a few ways. Number one, they know that that annoys all the sites, because that's just wasted time when they're not learning anything new. And then number two, even if a pharmaceutical company considers the cost and the time put into the training that has to keep happening, they really looked at this and thought, there are a lot of redundancies. So there's a lot of time wasted, which is just delaying those medicines making it to the patients. There's a lot of money being wasted that could be spent on, a hell of a lot better things, and more importantly, the time being wasted. And so this was one of the reasons why they felt that it would be really good to start looking at how they could share certain data, and to try and reduce those redundancies. So that's what we have been working with these farmers on. Why we were a good fit with them is what drugdev.org does anyway. So the data bank is a new thing for us, but it doesn't go far from what we've been doing. So drugdev.org, we are an online network of investigators. We currently have over 67,000 doctors registered with us. That's in 93 countries around the world, so it's a global service offering. Again, it goes back to what you had to say at the beginning. It's all about social media, and what you can do these days online. And so sites register with us for free. We believe, it's the sites that make our service worthwhile, so we're certainly never going to charge sites. But what we do is all of our clients are pharmaceutical companies, and often some of the CROs as well. And they'll have a protocol. They need to match, find sites that are interested, and that meet the protocol requirements. So they come to us. We then look at our users, we look at the countries that are being considered, we look at the specialties, and we actually email our users. We give them a 1 sentence on the protocol, and if they're interested, they click on a link which takes them to one of our website pages, and they're able to learn more about the study and complete the feasibility questionnaires online.
Wow.
We're just trying to make everything more efficient, and we've done a few pilots where we've shown that process in itself can save some companies 2 months, which is quite crazy, given that we all do so much online these days, that we're one of few people sort of really focusing on that networking effect online.
Yeah, I did not realize that you guys go that far into the site
Yes.
selection procedure, because I recently, just last week, signed up South Coast Clinical Trials on there. So I haven't
Yeah.
received any emails yet. But I didn't realize it actually goes to that extent, to where that you're actually filling out feasibility surveys, it's more than just a place where the pharma companies can find the sites. It's actually collecting more data from them.
Yeah, so we're never the ones that actually make the decision. So it's the pharma companies that are the expert in the protocol, and clearly the sites are the experts at what happens, with patients. And so we're sort of in between those two. I think when I talk to people who aren't involved in the industry, it's always very difficult to try and explain how everything works.
Right.
I kind of liken it to a dating agency between pharmaceutical companies and investigative sites. So in addition, we also always encourage pharmaceutical companies to use our service before a protocol is finalised, so that they're not just using KOL to have input into the protocol, because KOLs are still required, but often they don't see anywhere near as many patients as the average investigator does on a day-to-day basis, because they're often much more academic or heading up institutions rather than seeing the patients. And so I've seen over the years how protocols get finalised, they go to IRB, but then the sites aren't interested necessarily because it's not a practical protocol. So the protocol might require patients to give consent, but the protocol is looking at patients that are unconscious. Whereas if they had have gone to a couple of investigators that see these patients all the time, not just the KOL, it might have been picked up a bit sooner that there's going to be practical problems.
Mm-hmm. Now, when was Drug Dev founded, and I guess what year, and then what was the reason? What was the main reason why it was founded?
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing Drug Dev now for, I think it's probably 5 years. I'd want to check that, if I remember. There was a lot going on at the time. And the main reason was I really saw this inefficient and I spoke to a mentor of mine who I worked with on a number of years, Dr. Hugo Stevenson, and he really worked with me in terms of helping crystallise the idea that he had. And so I always encourage people, if you've got someone you've worked with in the past that you felt was very knowledgeable, go to them, because it was those discussions that I had here that have now led me to be, and the organisation to where it is today. So the idea really was trying to help facilitate discussions between sites and pharmaceutical companies. Because I've worked at a number of large CROs in the past and small CROs, and I've always seen how inefficient everything is. And it astounds me that people are still using faxes, and it's not that uncommon. I know for some prefer it because computers are limited and they don't all have access to them. And some pharmaceutical companies, CROs prefer it that way because they only have fax numbers, they don't have emails. And I just looked at that and thought that was crazy. And so it's taken us a very long time to build up a network to where it is today, because clearly we didn't actually have a business until we were at a large number of clients, because we weren't going to be able to benefit anyone. But we started off a few cardiologists that we had worked with on and we have grown by referral and invitation. So we've done a bit of research on who's publishing, etc. And we've sent them in and asked on our network.
Yeah, and it's a little bit like the chicken and the egg thing. I mean, you need more clinics to get the interest of the sponsors, and you also need sponsors interested in order to get the clinics to sign up. The press definitely helps. So when did you start seeing a demand from the drug companies for this?
To be honest, I think when we first went to people and told them what we were doing, they were quite sceptical. And they all wondered, like, what between their own businesses, the biggest problem had along the way is that everyone else is, but we've got our database, it's going to be better than what yours is. And what we have found over the years is that even if it is a large pharma company, it doesn't mean that their database is good, because there are so many different people inputting to it. Quality is a huge variety. It depends on who puts it in as to how good it is. It doesn't get cleaned up very often. You've got people who have retired or are no longer in clinical research that they've still got in their database. Whereas our business is only the same quality as the level of up-to-date information we have in our network on our users. And so that was definitely a critical sort of thing. Once we got looking at the quality of their own data, that was when we started to see demand. That and also running a lot of pilots, as a lot of pharmaceutical companies like to do. They would test us in their feasibility process in particular when they use their old traditional methods and their own internal staff. And we would run our feasibility at the same time, and we would always finish faster. And we always, when they compared the results, what we got, what they were coming out with the same results, whether that was selection, average number of patients per site, etc. And so as a result, we had to admit that we weren't cheaper, we were faster. And once people did that once, and that's when people started to slowly use us, and a bit of word of mouth, different pharma companies to happen.
Mm-hmm. And Melissa, if you can hold, I don't know if you have a microphone somewhere, if you can hold it closer. It's going in and out slightly. I want to make sure everyone hears. So how did the Transcelerate group approach you? Was that recently?
As with everything in the pharma industry, not everything happens overnight. It's been a while since we've been talking about all of this. They had actually been making discussions themselves for quite some time about wanting to do this. And it was one of the curious things. I presented at a conference called Disruptive, probably over a year ago, and just very timely, because the people that make decisions about the data bank were actually in the audience. I did a case study how it helped network and use emails and social media to help find the right sites for a rare indication. And I was approached afterwards for more information, and if about 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, I was interested in having drug pitch to be considered one of the potential suppliers, work with them on this whole data bank project. And we, of course, agreed. We considered the benefit of the entire industry. And we were by no means the only people initially approached. Good luck for us, that given what we already did, it applied quite nicely. And we were selected to go forward and discuss things with them. And that brings us today, probably well over a year since that decision was made to work with us, finally announcing that it's happening.
Yes, and I'm sure you're going to get a lot of sites signing up. You must have seen an increase in the amount of clinics registering over the last few weeks.
We have. We've also had some large university hospitals and a number of large organisations contacting and saying, how do we make sure it's database? And it's pretty simple. They can just go to the website and register.
Yeah, I really hope this whole movement, and I've noticed the one in the U.S. with Merck, Lilly, and Johnson & Johnson, they're starting to realize that they need to share this information. Because I've been doing this for about 8 years from a site level.
Yes.
And what I've seen is, I mean, if you have like 8 studies a year, if you're a small clinic, or a medium-sized clinic, and you have like 10 to 12 studies a year, that means your staff are doing 12 different GCP trainings every year, entering the same information 12 different times a year, and this is time-consuming stuff. So I'm really hoping that drugdev.org and can foster more collaboration in the industry.
Well, the industry wants to do it, but it's traditionally quite difficult for them to go about it. And, this is the part that we're involved in, but they are also discussing many other collaborations to try and make things easier and faster for everyone in the industry. So I think this is just the first of many, I hope to see. Yeah.
And now, are you comfortable are you the founder of drugdev.org?
I'm the only active founder still working within the business. The others are still involved, but are doing other things.
Hmm. And are you comfortable sharing, not necessarily details, but I'm assuming the sponsors are paying for your information?
Yeah, that's all confidential. I'm sure it doesn't surprise you,
Right.
but they are paying us to manage everything. So yes,
Hmm.
but beyond contractual, I'm not allowed to say.
Right, right. No, just so we understand the business model. This is great. Do you see more? Are you seeing competitors enter the space? What's your response to the clinical research trade union that's kind of forming there? With I just interviewed her, the Society for Clinical Research Professionals. You know how they just formed that
I
union?
am not familiar with them. That would be sort of something I need to go and look into. But if they're basically sort of championing, sorry, it's a word that I'm struggling with this afternoon, making everything more efficient for everyone and making it much fairer. I'm for talking with them and seeing anything, if there's anything we can do together. I mean, for us, we've seen that a lot of pharmaceutical companies build relationships with a site, and then they've got a group of sites that they work with and continue to work with. But there's a lot of other sites that would probably match their protocol needs, that because they know them, they don't include it and cite them out. So that's something definitely look to improve. I think someone once said something about democratizing clinical research so that
Mm,
everyone's in there, everyone has a chance. You don't it's just who you have a relationship. And again, that's something we're all for.
right. And if a research clinic wants to sign up right now, tell them how to do that.
Please go to www.drugdev.org. That's short for drug development. So drugdev.org, and you will see on the front page on the left hand side there is a button that says, a bright red button, hard to miss, that's register. So please register.
Hmm. And I want to, yeah, go ahead and do that. I've done it, and I mean, it's free. Why not? Apparently, this database is getting viewed by lots of different sponsors. The Transcelerate thing is huge. You guys want to be part of the trend. You do not want to go against the trend and resist it. So go ahead and sign up. It's free. I want to give our Clinical Trial Guru producers a shout out as we wrap up. It's $99 for a lifetime membership. It's Sarah Elizabeth Siegler, Resolve Research Solutions, Accurate Clinical Trials, Earnhardt Clinical Trials, PTNR, South Coast Clinical Trials, Breakthrough Clinical Trials, Patrick Stone, Biopharm Systems, FDA Lawyers, and I think that's all of them so far. There's room for 90 more. So I'm only accepting 100, and that's it. It's over for life. I'm serious about this. All right, and Melissa, thank you very much for coming on. It was an excellent interview. In the middle, we had a few audio problems, but I'm sure our viewers can still understand it. And we're going to have to do follow-up interviews soon, okay?
Problem. I'm always happy to help in any way.
And we'll definitely be following drugdev.org, and we'll be connecting a lot through social media.
Fabulous.
All right, thank you very much, Melissa, and thank you all for watching. This is Dan from theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Take care.